The clinking of cutlery and soft murmur of conversations floated through the restaurant, warm and inviting, yet to Emily it only emphasized her solitude. A single candle flickered on her table, its flame dancing in the reflection of the wineglass before her. She leaned back, tracing the rim with her fingertip, and reminded herself again that turning 30 didn't have to feel like this. She had promised herself she wouldn't spend her birthday sulking at home, scrolling through photos of other people's celebrations. She booked a reservation at this small Italian restaurant downtown because it had charm. Warm brick walls, dim golden lighting, and live piano music drifting in the background. It was the sort of place where couples leaned close, families laughed over shared plates, and birthdays were toasted with sparkling glasses of Prosecco. But hers was a table for one. The waiter had already asked twice if she was expecting company. Both times, she had smiled politely and said no. He gave the kind of sympathetic smile she hated, the one that said I feel sorry for you, but I won't say it out loud. Emily sighed, lifting her glass. Happy birthday, you old fool, she muttered under her breath, forcing a smile before taking a sip. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend, Clara. Sorry I can't be there tonight. Rain check this weekend. Love you, birthday girl. Emily swallowed the disappointment. Clara had meant well, but the truth was, everyone in her life seemed busy, moving forward, swept into commitments, relationships, careers. Meanwhile, Emily felt stuck still at the same marketing job she'd held since her 20s, still single, still measuring her life against milestones she hadn't reached. Excuse me, miss. The voice startled her. She looked up, expecting the waiter. It wasn't. A man stood by her table, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a dark blazer over a crisp shirt, the top button undone. His hair was slightly tousled, the kind of deliberate disarray that looked careless but wasn't. His eyes were steady, the kind of blue that seemed to catch and hold the light. Before she could speak, he pulled out the chair across from her and sat down as if he belonged there. Her breath caught. Excuse me, what are you? He leaned forward, his gaze calm but intense. I don't usually do this, he said softly. But something tells me we're supposed to meet tonight. The words hung between them, absurd yet weighted, like a line from a film that could be either charming or deeply unsettling depending on the next few seconds. Emily blinked, caught between irritation and disbelief. I'm sorry, do I know you? No, he said simply. His voice was even, steady, carrying no trace of embarrassment. But I think we're meant to change that. She gave a nervous laugh, unsure whether to call for the waiter or lean into curiosity. This is highly unusual. I know. He smiled, faintly, like he understood her hesitation. And I promise I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. If you'd like me to leave, I will. Just say the word. Her instinct screamed caution. A stranger sitting down at her table, claiming fate sent him. It sounded like the beginning of every cautionary tale. Yet something in his expression, earnest, unforced, disarmed her. He wasn't leering or smug. He looked almost certain. What makes you think we're supposed to meet? She asked, folding her arms. I don't know how to explain it, he admitted. It's just a feeling. I was walking past, saw you here alone, and something told me this is where I should be. With you. Emily stared, at a loss. Her rational mind listed possibilities. He was a con artist, a smooth talker, maybe even unstable. But beneath that ran something quieter, a whisper of intrigue she couldn't silence. Look, she said carefully, this is my birthday dinner. Alone. I'm not really in the mood for games. His expression softened. Then let me say this instead. Happy birthday. The simple words, spoken without pity, hit differently. He didn't ask her age, didn't comment on the single candle at her table. Just offered the wish like it mattered. Against her better judgment, Emily felt her defenses falter. You don't even know my name. He extended a hand across the table. Then let me fix that. I'm Daniel. She hesitated, then shook his hand, her pulse quickening. Emily, Emily, he repeated, like he was trying the name on his tongue, committing it to memory. A good name. Silence stretched for a moment. She set her glass down, watching him carefully. So, Daniel, what exactly are you expecting to happen here? You sit down at a stranger's table and declare fate sent you. What's the next step? He chuckled lightly, the sound warm. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe just a conversation. Maybe that's all fate intended. It was disarming in its honesty. He wasn't pushing, wasn't angling for anything beyond the moment. She found herself leaning back, curiosity rising where suspicion had been. "All right," she said slowly. "One conversation. But if you turn out to be some kind of weirdo, I reserve the right to throw my drink in your face." His smile widened. "Fair enough." The waiter returned then, raising an eyebrow at the unexpected guest. Emily gave a small nod, and without missing a beat, the waiter added another glass to the table. "So," Daniel said once the waiter left, "tell me about your birthday. Do you usually spend it alone?" Emily gave him a wry look. "That's a little forward, maybe, but I'd like to know." She surprised herself by answering. "Usually, I spend it with friends. This year, plans fell through. So I thought I'd try something different. Treat myself to a nice dinner instead of sulking at home." "I think that's brave," Daniel said. "Brave," she laughed. "It feels more pathetic than brave." "No," he said firmly. "Most people wouldn't dare walk into a nice restaurant and sit alone. They'd be too worried about how it looks. But you did. That says something." The sincerity in his tone caught her off guard. She looked down, fiddling with the edge of her napkin, unsure how to respond. "And you?" she asked, turning the attention. "Do you usually crash strangers' birthdays?" He laughed, shaking his head. "No, this is a first. So what were you really doing here?" He paused, as though weighing his words. "I was in the neighborhood, walking, clearing my head. And then I saw you. I can't explain it better than that. Something told me I'd regret it if I didn't come in." There it was again, that unnerving certainty. Emily studied him, trying to read between the lines. He wasn't fidgeting, wasn't trying to charm her with practiced lines. He simply sat, steady and calm, as if he belonged there. They talked as the courses arrived. She told him about her job, how marketing paid the bills but didn't light her up inside. He shared that he worked in architecture, his eyes brightening as he described designing spaces that made people feel something. "Buildings hold stories," he said. "They outlast us. They become part of people's lives in ways we don't always see." Emily found herself leaning in, captivated. It wasn't just what he said, but how he said it, with passion, with belief. In turn, he asked about her dreams. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she told him the truth, things she rarely admitted aloud. That she'd once wanted to be a writer. That she kept a journal full of half-finished stories but never had the courage to pursue them. Daniel listened without judgment. "Maybe that's why we met tonight," he said quietly. "To remind you it's not too late." Her heart gave an unexpected jolt. She searched his face, wondering if he was mocking her, but his expression was gentle, unwavering. By the time dessert arrived, tiramisu with a single lit candle courtesy of the staff, Emily was laughing more freely than she had in months. Daniel clapped softly, encouraging her to make a wish. She closed her eyes, inhaling deeply, and for the first time all day, she didn't feel alone. When she blew out the candle, Daniel was watching her, his gaze intent, almost searching. "What?" she asked, flustered. "Nothing," he said with a small smile. "Just, I was right. I was supposed to be here tonight." Her stomach fluttered with unease and something else, something dangerously close to hope. As the waiter cleared the plates, Daniel leaned back, folding his hands. "Emily, I don't want to push. But I'd like to see you again. Would you?" Emily hesitated, her mind a whirl of caution and longing. This was insane. She didn't know him. And yet, there was something undeniable about the way the night had unfolded, something that felt larger than coincidence. She began, but her words faltered. Before she could answer, Daniel's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen, and for the first time that evening, his expression shifted, something dark flickering across his face. He silenced it quickly, slipping the phone into his pocket, but the change was unmistakable. "What is it?" Emily asked, frowning. Daniel shook his head, forcing a smile. "Nothing important." But she knew he was lying. And for the first time all evening, she wondered if fate had led her into something she didn't yet understand. Emily couldn't ignore it. The way Daniel's expression had tightened when his phone lit up, the way his eyes flicked away, even though until then he had looked at her with such calm attention. Something had shifted. "You're sure it's nothing?" she asked. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Completely sure. It should have been enough, but unease prickled through her. For the rest of dessert, his focus drifted, though he tried to mask it with easy conversation. Emily couldn't shake the sense that whatever had flashed across that screen wasn't trivial. When the check arrived, Daniel reached for it instinctively. "Oh, no, you don't have to," Emily protested. "Please," he said gently. "Let me consider it my contribution to fate's arrangement tonight." Her lips curved despite herself. She let him, but as he handed his card over, her gaze fell to his hands. Strong, steady, but she noticed a faint scar along the side of his wrist, pale but jagged, as though cut by glass. Something about it sent a chill through her. Outside, the air was cool, the night alive with the hum of the city. They walked side by side in silence at first, the restaurant's golden glow fading behind them. "I'll walk you home," Daniel offered. Emily hesitated. Every rational instinct told her no. But something about the quiet conviction in his voice, protective, not presumptuous, made her nod. "All right." They strolled along the cobbled streets, their footsteps echoing. Emily wrapped her coat tighter, stealing glances at him. "So, Daniel," she said lightly, "are you going to tell me what that phone call was about?" He exhaled, a rueful smile tugging at his lips. "Persistent, aren't you?" "Curious," she corrected. For a moment, he was quiet. Then, "It was a reminder of something I try not to let define me." She frowned. "That's cryptic. Some truths are easier when you don't lead with them." He glanced at her, his gaze steady again. "But since you asked, I lost someone. A year ago. And tonight is the anniversary." Emily slowed, her steps, her heart tugging. "Oh, he stopped, corrected himself. "My sister. She died in an accident. A car crash. I was supposed to be with her that night, but I wasn't. I've carried that guilt every day since." The weight in his voice was raw, unpolished. Emily's chest tightened. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be." He looked ahead, his jaw tight. "I was walking tonight, thinking about her, wondering what I'm doing with my life. Then I saw you, and something told me to go in." Emily's breath caught. The strangeness of it, the timing, it fit too neatly to be dismissed. "So when you said fate, I meant it," he said quietly. For a while, they walked without words, the city sounds filling the silence. Emily's heart ached with sympathy, but also with something sharper, something dangerous. Because part of her wanted to believe that his sister, or fate, or something unseen, had pushed him toward her. When they reached her apartment building, they stopped under the glow of a street lamp. "This is me," she said softly. Daniel nodded, his hands in his pockets. "Thank you for letting me crash your birthday. I know it was unorthodox." She laughed under her breath. "That's one word for it. But I meant what I said," he added, his voice lower now. "I'd like to see you again. If you'll let me." Emily searched his face, the steadiness of his eyes, the undercurrent of grief and hope tangled together. Against every cautionary bone in her body, she felt herself nod. "Yes," she whispered, "I'd like that." His smile was small but genuine. He leaned forward, pressing a light kiss to her cheek. It was brief, chaste, but her pulse raced as if it had been more. "Good night, Emily." And then he was gone, disappearing into the night with that air of certainty still wrapped around him. The days that followed, Emily told herself she was reckless, insane even. But when Daniel texted the next morning, a simple coffee later, she found herself saying yes. What followed wasn't a whirlwind, not exactly. It was slower, deeper. They met for coffee, then for long walks, then for dinners where conversation spilled easily into the night. She learned that Daniel was quiet but thoughtful, intense yet tender. He carried grief like a shadow, but with her he seemed lighter. And she, who had felt invisible on her birthday, found herself seen. Truly seen. Still, questions lingered. He was vague about certain details, his family, his work. She brushed it off at first, thinking perhaps grief made those topics harder. But sometimes she caught that flicker again, that shadow crossing his face like it had the night of her birthday. One evening, 2 weeks later, they sat in her apartment, a bottle of wine between them. Daniel traced the rim of his glass, his expression unreadable. "Emily," he said slowly, can I ask you something strange? Stranger than how we met? She teased. Maybe. He hesitated. Do you ever feel like your life is waiting for something to happen? Like you're standing on the edge of something, and you don't know what, but you can't step back either. The words sent a shiver down her spine. She thought of her half-finished stories, her restless sense of being stuck, her lonely birthday. All the time, she admitted. Daniel nodded, as if he'd expected her answer. That's how I felt before I walked into that restaurant. And when I saw you, it was like stepping into the thing I'd been waiting for. Her chest tightened, torn between wonder and fear. Because as much as she wanted to believe in fate, she couldn't ignore the part of her that whispered too fast, too intense, too much. Daniel, she said carefully, I like you. More than I expected to. But sometimes you talk like you already know how this ends. His eyes met hers, unwavering. Maybe I do. The words lingered, unsettling and magnetic all at once. The revelation. The following Friday, Emily left work late, the city streets alive with weekend energy. She texted Daniel, dinner tonight. No response. She tried again an hour later. Still nothing. By midnight, worry gnawed at her. She knew so little about him, yet he had become so much a part of her days. Against her better judgment, she called. Finally, he answered. His voice was low, strained. Emily, I can't see you tonight. Is everything okay? A pause. Not really. But it's better if you don't get involved. The words hit her like a stone. Daniel, you can't just say that. What's going on? Silence stretched, heavy and sharp. Then he sighed. Remember when I said I lost my sister? That wasn't the whole truth. I didn't just lose her. I was driving the car. Emily's breath caught. She died because of me, Daniel whispered. I walked away with nothing but a scar. And I've spent every day since wondering why it wasn't me instead. That's what you saw on my phone that night. Messages from people who think I should have been the one. Her chest tightened, torn between shock and aching compassion. Daniel, I shouldn't have pulled you into this, he said roughly. I thought, maybe fate gave me a second chance. But I don't deserve it. Don't you dare say that, Emily said fiercely. You're alive. That has to mean something. Maybe fate did put us in each other's path. Not to punish you, but to heal you. Silence. Then, faintly, you really believe that? I do. Her voice shook, but she meant it. And if you walk away now, you're just letting that guilt decide your whole life. Don't let it. On the other end, she heard his breath hitch. And for the first time, she knew she had reached him. The choice. They met the next day at the same Italian restaurant where it all began. Daniel looked tired, shadows under his eyes, but when he saw her, something softened in his face. I'm sorry, he said as he sat down. I should have told you sooner. Emily reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. Thank you for telling me now. For a moment, they sat in silence, the same piano music drifting around them, the candlelight flickering. You said once that buildings hold stories, Emily said. Maybe people do too. Broken ones, heavy ones. But they're still worth building on. Daniel looked at her like she had just handed him air after drowning. Slowly, he nodded. Maybe fate didn't bring me to you to punish me. Maybe it was to remind me that I can keep living. She squeezed his hand. And maybe it brought me you to remind me that I can stop waiting for life to happen. His smile was faint but real. For the first time, Emily felt the weight lift, not completely, but enough. Epilogue. Months later, on another quiet night, Emily sat at her desk, a notebook open before her. She wrote words she had been too afraid to finish for years. Outside, Daniel worked on sketches for a new building, his pen scratching steadily against paper. Every so often, he looked up, meeting her eyes with that same steady certainty he had shown the night they met. Only now, she no longer feared it. Because maybe fate wasn't about grand designs or cosmic scripts. Maybe it was about moments. Two lonely souls colliding in the glow of a restaurant, choosing to sit across from each other, and refusing to walk away. And as Emily's pen moved across the page, she realized that her birthday wish had come true after all. Not because fate had written it, but because she had chosen to believe it.